Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Jasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjali Hari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjali Hari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai. Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Raj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Jasoda, and the delighter of the inhabitants of Raj. He wanders in the forest along the banks of the river Jamuna. Please repeat. Narayana Namaskritya
Naranam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Please repeat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam,
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam,
which is the very means of conquest,
which is the very means of conquest,
one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead,
unto the obeisances unto the personality of Godhead,
Narayan,
Narayan,
unto Narayan Rishi,
unto Narayan,
the supermost human being,
the supermost human being,
unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning,
unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning,
and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
Please repeat. Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna
Srinvatam Bhagavatam Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Yadyantasto Yabhadrani Verunoti Suritsatam. Please repeat. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead,
Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead,
who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart,
who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart,
and the benefactor of the truthful devotee,
and the benefactor of the truthful devotee,
cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous, when properly heard and chanted. Please repeat. Nasta Preshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Ashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Please repeat. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. and loving service unto the personality of Godhead,
and loving service to the personality of Godhead,
whose praise with transcendental songs
whose praise is a transcendental song,
is established as an irrevocable fact.
and is established as an irrevocable fact.
Did Prabhupada say something about the end? The process is the end, and the end is the process, like that, you know.
Well, it makes sense.
If you're involved in a process,
Well, but this process is him training us to be who we are.
yeah.
We're supposed to hear, you know, we just are doing it, and we're not doing it spontaneously. You know,
In the context of chanting, yes. In the context of chanting, the chanting is the process,
Yeah.
chanting is the end.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you're relishing the chanting, then that's the end.
Mm-hmm. You know, from the very beginning, if somebody's serious, they can relish the Maha Mantra right from the beginning, because Krishna really gives a good taste right in the beginning, you know. That's what I've always heard the devotees say, you know. If one is serious, he'll give you a really good taste, especially in the beginning. You know, and I was just reading yesterday, and Prabhupada said that this process is, it's relishable from the very beginning. He said it's not difficult, you know.
Even when they make fun of it, you know.
Yeah, even if they make fun. Like in the sugarcane field that time, still, Prabhupada says, they make progress, even if they're making fun.
The Muslim, when they were complaining to the Qazi, the Brahmins were complaining because he was giving the untouchables the chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and the Muslims were complaining that we were making fun of the mantra, and now we can't stop. We can't stop chanting. It's some kind of magic, black magic.
Please repeat. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the second canto, chapter 9, text 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Please repeat. Tasmai
Sva
Lokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha.
Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan
Sandarshayam Asa
Param
Na Yat Param Sandarshayam Asa Param Na Yat Param
Sadashayam Asaparam Nayat Param
Vyapeta Sanklesha
Vimoha
Sadvasam Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam
Vyapeta Saklesha Vimoha Sadvasam
Sva Krista Vabir Purusher Abhistutam Svadrista Vabir Purusher Abhistutam Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha. Sandarshayam Asa Param Nayat Param. Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam. Svadista Vadbir Purusher Abhistutam.
O tasmai svalokam bhagavan sabhajita.
Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita.
Sandashayamasa param nayat param.
Sandasayamasa Paranayataram.
Vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadvasam.
Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam.
Swadrishta vadbir purushada abhishutam.
Swadhishtavyadir Purushaya Vishtutam.
Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajitaha.
Tasmai svalokam bhagavan sabhajitaha.
Dashayamasa param nayat param.
Sandashayamasa param nayat param.
Vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadvasam.
Vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadvasam.
Swadhishtavadbir purushayar abhishtutam.
Swadrishtabir purushada vishtutam. Tasmai svalokam bhagavan sabhajita. Nasaya asaparam nayat param. Vyapite sanklesha vimoha sadvisam. Swadhishtavadbir purushada vishtutam. Tasmai svalokam bhagavan sabhajita. Sandashayamasa param nayataram. Vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadvasam. Swadhishtavadbir purushada vishtutam.
Tasmai Swaloka Bhagavan Sabhajita.
Tasmai svalokam bhagavan sabhajita.
Sandasayamasa Paramanayat Param.
Sandashayamasa param nayat param.
Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam.
Vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadvasam.
Swadhishtaya Virpurasaya Vishtutam.
Swadhishtavadbir purushada vishtutam.
Please repeat. Tasmai
Tasmai
unto him.
unto him.
Svalokam
Svalokam
his own planet or abode.
his own planet or abode.
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead.
Sabhajitaha
Sabhajitaha
being pleased by the penance of Brahma. Sundar Shayam Asam
Sandashayam
Sundar Shayam Asam
Sandashayamasa
manifested.
manifested.
Param
Param
the supreme.
supreme.
Na
Na
not. I got it.
I thought it was
Yeah.
devotional book.
A sacred devotion book.
Oh gosh.
Yat
Yat
of which
Well,
Param
Param
further supreme.
further spring.
Vyapeta
Vyapeta
completely given up.
completely
Completely
given up.
given up.
Shanklesha
Sanklesha
the 5 kinds of material afflictions.
The
5 kinds of material affliction.
Vimoha
Vimoha
without illusion.
Without illusion.
Sadvasam
Sadvasam
fear of material existence.
fear of material existence.
Svadrista vadbihi
Swadhishtavadbir.
by those who have perfectly realized the self.
By those who have perfectly realized the self.
Purushai
Purushai.
by persons.
By persons.
Abhistutam
Abhishutam
worshipped by. This translation, please repeat. The personality of Godhead,
Personality of Godhead,
being thus very much satisfied
Being
being
thus
very much satisfied
with the penance of Lord Brahma,
Penances of Brahma,
was pleased to manifest his personal abode,
was pleased to manifest his personal abode,
Vaikuntha,
Vaikuntha,
the supreme planet,
the supreme planet
above all others.
above
all others.
This transcendental abode of the Lord
The transcendental abode of the Lord
is adored by all self-realized persons,
is adored by all self-realized,
freed from all kinds of miseries
free from all kinds of mysteries,
and fear of illusory existence.
and fear of illusory existence.
I read that one again. The translation is, the personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied by the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotional service, bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Svavalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material as conceived by the impersonalists. But the realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotional service, and thus the devotees enter such abodes. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning. Whereas the trouble of penance and other processes of self-realization, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. There is no profit in beating husks without grains. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than bhakti yoga for self-realization. Executing bhakti yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Krama Sandarbha annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotations from the Garga Upanishad Vedic evidence. It is said that Jagnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a core fund of knowledge. Herein, the word svadrista vadbihi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of oneself. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of one's self. And personal realization of self and the Supreme is not complete, because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of devotees of the Lord are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with 5 kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by these 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into the Vaikuntha lokas. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of material personality and is far from the positive existence of personal form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a cowherd boy, keeping transcendental Sarabi cows, and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani Prakarsad Mashikopa Vriksha Laksavritesha Surabir Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevya Manam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Brajami. Brahma Samhita 529. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatva Na Nivartante Ta Dhamma Paramam Mama, is also confirmed herewith. Param means transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by the Gyanis, the Yogis, and the Karmis. And Krishna consciousness is perfection. The devotee can attain that perfection. You know, that's God consciousness. That's full realization. That's the ultimate goal. That's what we're trying to strive to get back to by God's grace and the Guru's grace. Prabhupada mentions that about mythical. He says that, you know, they want to say that the personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material, as conceived by the impersonalists. Prabhupada says that if they want to call, you know, this process, Krishna consciousness, or the Vedas as mythical, then he made a statement. He came back at him and said, then we can call your process mythologically. What do you use that?
Mythology.
Mythology also. Your process also is mythology. You know how you can't prove either way. You know. It says there's undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance and other processes of self-realization, the jnana yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. These are very absolute statements, you know, which people can challenge if they want to. But hopefully they're not offensive when they do it, because Prabhupada always liked a good challenge, you know. And also penance is mentioned. Penance, let's see. There it is. By the dictionary, there's only two definitions here. The first one is Eastern Orthodox Church, a sacrament involving the confession of sin, repentance, and acceptance of the satisfaction imposed, followed by absolution by a priest. That's A. And then B, the satisfaction imposed as the recital of certain prayers. And the second definition, any act of reparation, self-punishment, etc., done in repentance for a sin or wrongdoing. And of course, it's not saying exactly that. The kind of penance, it's just like, where do we get an example? If you attain anything worth attaining, there's always sacrifice involved. So that's the kind of penance we're talking about with Lord Brahma, you know, very positive penance on behalf of the Lord. course, we know he spent 1,000 celestial years in meditation, which is only 100 of his years. And how many human years was it, Prabhuji?
I think it was 2,160,000 or something like that.
Human years. But for him, it only seemed like 100. Yes, Prabhuji?
The simple calculation is 6 months of our,
Yeah.
1 year of our year is 1 day of celestial year.
Right.
So that's why Prabhupada is giving a calculation.
Yeah. He gives the formula too. I don't. No, he doesn't give this one. I think he gave it in yours yesterday. The previous 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 of our years. One celestial year is equal to 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 of our years. Yeah. So I can't imagine how he possibly did that, but obviously he was empowered by the Lord. So, the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha. While in the previous pages we have briefly explained the 14 divisions of material planetary systems, here we will explore the polydimensional universe, known as the spiritual sky. Does anybody know what they mean by polydimensional universe?
Multiple, many dimensions.
Though the material cosmos is inconceivably vast, in comparison to the world of the spirit, it seems like little more than a small cardboard box. Vaishnava texts describe Devidam, or the material world, as the lowest of all possible realms. Maheshdam, or the abode of Lord Shiva, is slightly higher than the multifarious universes that make up Devidam. The worlds encompassed by both Devidam and Maheshdam range from the grossly material, such as those in the lower and middle planetary systems, like Earth, up to those that are composed almost exclusively of subtle energy, such as mind, intelligence, and ego. Beyond these lesser realms is Haridam, also known as Vaikuntha. This is the spiritual sky proper, where there are no material imperfections and life is eternal. And above the highest realm is Haridam, and Haridam is Goloka, Krishna's supreme abode. Details on why Goloka is the topmost spiritual abode can be found in both the Brahma Samhita and the writings of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. To elaborate on the outer shell of the material cosmos is the Viraj river, beyond which one finds the freed souls, or those liberated from material existence. Further still is the Parvyom, where infinite numbers of avatars or partial manifestations of Krishna reside. Here one can locate the planets of Nrsimha, Vamana, and Ram. For example, and devotees of these particular manifestations of Godhead may go to these spiritual realms after death. After all other realms is Krishna's supreme planet Goloka, which can manifest as Dwarka, where opulence reigns supreme as Mathura, where opulence is mixed with sweetness, and ultimately as Vrindavan, where all lordly power is eclipsed by love. Expansions of these 3 latter abodes exist on earth, and their material counterparts are considered non-different from their corresponding spiritual regions. Anybody want to make a comment or?
Well, the thing about penance, that in those definitions of penance, it was describing how, they go and confess some sin and get some penance, something to atone for that. And Prabhupada would oftentimes use that as an example, use the elephant bathing in the river as an example. He goes into the river to get, to cleanse himself, to cool off, to cleanse himself, and then as soon as he gets out on the shore, he takes his long trunk and, sucks up some, like a vacuum cleaner almost, piles of sand and then sprays it all over his back. So he's, he washes himself off, and then he, puts more, cleanses, and he throws the dirt back on. So Prabhupada said, you go, and I can attest, being raised a Catholic, we would go, I think once a week or once a month, we would go to confession. We could receive communion the next day, and they tell you how many Hail Marys, Our Fathers, and then you confess those sins, and then you just go out and do them again after you say the prayers. It's just habit is like you can't stop your habits.
So confession's on the first day, and then there's a communion on the next day.
Yeah, you did the confession on Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday morning you go to church to receive communion. And you're not supposed to receive communion unless you've gone to confess. And it's like, I took some nickels out of my mother's purse to buy candy, so thou shalt not steal, I told a lie when she asked me if I did it, and I said no.
Yeah. I used to do that all the time. My dad's dresser, when you come in from work, you just throw all of his change on top of the dresser.
Yeah.
So I was the oldest boy, so I'd go pick up change so we could buy candy, I felt bad about it. I always felt bad about it. But he was a bachelor. He just dumped all of his change on top of the dresser.
No mother?
I lost her when this body was about 5 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he remarried when this body was about 9 years old to somebody who was about 9 or 10 years older than me. So she was like an older sister, really. Yeah. But I had a wonderful childhood. I cannot complain. I really can't.
Did you have in those days you could go out and get those, the bottles that did a quart of beer, and then the soda bottles that pop, like for Coca-Cola for 2 cents. We used to go out all the vacant lots, collect the bottles, turn them in, and then they'd give you the money, and then you buy the candy, because the candies were a nickel and a dime.
I remember the Beatles were in Huntsville, Alabama. The Beatles were really big.
Yeah.
I had no idea that basically he would be like an older godbrother to us, Because George Harrison asked Prabhupada, should I get initiated? And Prabhupada said, you're already my disciple. You are my son, I consider you,
Yeah, I heard George say, my name is Hari Son of Hari.
Yeah, George Harrison, he was at the end, Shamsundar was saying, that he was very happy. He says, I love everyone. I've seen everything, done everything. I'm ready to go.
His wife said that on his death, she said, let me just put it like this. We didn't need any lights to illuminate the room. So he must have been like...
So she was being humble, but at the same time letting us know what it was like. When somebody says something like that, it may sound like it's a little egotistical, but she was trying to say it in a way that, without being, Like, because I've heard of this before in other people. Indians will say, I saw his super soul leave his body, like that time. I don't know, was it Jai Saini?
Yeah, somebody, but they thought they saw him in a four-arm form.
Four-arm form,
yeah. Who knows?
That was a very humble way of saying it, the way she said it. Let me put it this way. There was no need of any lights when he was passing in the room. That's just a humble way of saying it, Nice way of saying it, really.
And Mukunda and Shamsundar, I don't know if they were there on the very day, but they came, near the end, like the last couple of days, they were there chanting with him.
Yeah, the place where they had was at the chapel on the lake. The chapel on the lake.
What do you mean?
That was the name of the place where they had his funeral.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
he was actually staying. I just heard the other day that he was staying in a house that Paul McCartney owned.
Oh.
In Malibu. Somewhere in California.
Yeah, it's fun to, these are called personal things, you know. It's like we become more attracted the more we hear personal things. Just like with Krishna, the more we hear about his personal activities, it describes what we were reading earlier, that we become purified by God's grace, Krishna's grace, by the devotee who has developed an attraction to hear his pastimes. Krishna automatically cleanses our heart of material enjoyment. That is so wonderful, so beautiful.
I mean, if it wasn't for George Harrison's donation for the books, that Krishna book, you know, that Krishna book brought so many people to the movement. You know.
Some students said that near the end of George Harrison's life that he becomes really advanced. That he said that he couldn't hope to be anywhere near where he was at.
Yeah. But this energy, let's see, the Lord has his internal energy also, which has another certain creation known to be the Vaikuntha Lokas, where there is no ignorance, no passion, no illusion, and no past and present. With the poor fund of knowledge, one may be unable to understand the existence of such things as the Vaikuntha atmosphere, but that does not nullify its existence. That spacecraft cannot reach these planets does not mean that there is no such planets, for they are described in the revealed scriptures. As quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami, we can know from the Narada Pancharatra that the transcendental world or Vaikuntha atmosphere is enriched with transcendental qualities. These transcendental qualities, as revealed through the devotional service of the Lord, are distinct from the mundane qualities of ignorance, passion, and goodness. Such qualities are not attainable by the non-devotee class of men. In the Padma Purana, Uttara Kanda, it is stated that beyond the 1/4 part of God's creation is the 3/4 manifestation. The marginal line between the material manifestation and the spiritual manifestation is the Viraj river, and beyond the Viraj, which is a transcendental current flowing from the perspiration of the body of the Lord, there is the 3/4 manifestation of God's creation. This part is eternal, everlasting, without deterioration, and unlimited, and it contains the highest perfectional stage of living conditions. In the Sankhya Kunundi, it is stated that unalloyed goodness or transcendence is just opposite to the material modes. All living entities there are eternally associated without any break. Oh, this is interesting. All living entities there are eternally associated without any break, and the Lord is the chief and prime entity. In the Agama Puranas also, the transcendental abode is described as follows. The associated members there are free to go everywhere within the creation of the Lord, and there is no limit to such creation, particularly in the region of the 3/4 magnitude. Since the nature of that region is unlimited, there is no history of such association, nor is there end of it. Since the nature of that region is unlimited, there is no history of such association, nor is there an end of it. The conclusion may be drawn that because of the complete absence of the mundane qualities of ignorance and passion, there is no question of creation nor of annihilation. In the material world, everything is created and everything is annihilated, and the duration of life between the creation and annihilation is temporary. In the transcendental realm, there is no